Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, The New Kid on the Block, The Rise of the Event Technologist. My name is Julie Haddix, and I am the Senior Director of Industry Marketing here at Cvent, coming to you live today from Westchester County, New York, where we actually have about 4 or 5 inches of snow on the ground. I'll be joined here today by Taylor Bone, Erica Didone, and Bridget Wagner, and let them each introduce themselves in just a few minutes. But before we get started, we're going to start going through today with what is the event technologist and the impacts that COVID had on the event technologist. We'll go through an organizational view of the event technologist, give you just an overview of the event technologist role, as well as talk about the success and the future. All of our conversation that we'll have today is going to be based off of some research that Cvent recently conducted with Hanover Research Agency. We conducted some field and industry, some surveys and interviews with a variety of event technologists to see what's going on. Each of our speakers, however, is an event technologist, so they will be sharing their views and thoughts on the research as it relates to their role with you today. But before we get started, I want to start with a poll. So a couple housekeeping notes for anybody who is not familiar with the Cvent Attendee Hub and our engagement panel. Hopefully by now you have all found the engagement panel that is located on the right side of your screen. You'll see little boxes for chat, Q&A, poll, and survey. Please be sure to use these throughout today's webinar. The chat will get you into the chat. Talk to us, let us know your reactions, let us know your thoughts. If you have any questions for myself or our presenters, navigate over to that Q&A button where you can enter a question. We will be saving time at the end of the call today for Q&A. Next down is polls. Please navigate there right now and take our first poll of the day. I'd love to know, for everybody joining us today, do you know what an event technologist is? Answer choices, of course. Enlighten me, I think so. Or I'm just here for the New Kids on the Block music, or maybe more baby pictures from Julie, you, and Taylor's kids that I saw on social media. Answer that poll while I finalize all of our housekeeping details and bring our speakers on to introduce themselves. That last little icon you see is the survey. Before you leave today, I'll remind you again, don't forget to take that survey and give us your feedback on today's conversation. So with that, while everybody finds the poll, navigates and answers the poll, want to get us kicked off with our question: do you consider yourself an event technologist? Based on our study that we conducted with Hanover, actually only 12% of those that we surveyed actually identify themselves as an event technologist. But based on the surrounding questions that we asked them about their role in events, their role with technology, we were able to identify them as event technologists. So found it super interesting that really only 12% of event technologists identify as a technologist themselves. And with that, I want to start introducing our panelists. As I said, I'm joined today by Taylor Bone, Erica Didone, and Bridget Wagner. Bringing Taylor first to introduce herself. Taylor, would love to for you to tell our panelists not just a little bit about who you are, but how you became an event technologist, and most importantly, do you consider yourself an event technologist?
Hey, Julie. Hey, everyone. I'm live in the chat myself. I'm so excited to be here. Yes, first and foremost, I absolutely do consider myself an event technologist. I actually pioneered the event technologist role here at Cvent, so I was the first kind of founder of our team. I started my journey at Cvent about 6.5 years ago in client services, where I was consulting with our lovely planner customers, those folks who actually have the Cvent solutions themselves and need kind of consultation on how to use and how to ensure that they're getting the most out of the solutions. During that time, I obviously became a subject matter expert, learned all the ins and outs of the Cvent products, which is a lot. But more importantly, I learned about the entire life cycle of the event planner, from planning the event and actually kind of getting that ideation out all the way through to hosting the event and post event looking at the data. So really that whole life cycle. And through that time, I encountered a lot of times where I had to sort of put myself in the planner's shoes and just get that sort of empathy for the stress and all of the hats that the event planner themselves wear. So during my time in client services, I discovered that our own internal meetings and events team didn't have a dedicated person who was owning the event technology function. So I came and kind of presented that as an opportunity, and they graciously allowed me to take the role on and develop it over time. And I've actually been in the role for a few years now, and it is still developing. I will be very honest about that, but we are every day discovering new things, and it's such an exciting place to be. So, without a doubt, I am definitely an event technologist and proud of it. And I'm proud to be here today.
Thank you, Taylor, so much. And love the role that you play at Cvent and on our marketing team. Sure does save us a ton of work when we're trying to execute all of our internal events. All right, our second panelist today, Erica Tadone. I'd like to bring Erica in. Erica, welcome. Know you're also in the middle of snowy Westchester today, so hope we're both staying warm. But tell us a little bit about your role and if you consider yourself an event technologist.
Yes, thank you so much. So happy to be here and knowledge share with you all. So as Julie mentioned, I do consider myself an event technologist first and foremost. I actually have a lot of Cvent experience and event technology experience, and I got exposed to it at a very young age. I actually graduated from a hospitality management program where they exposed us to Cvent probably around my sophomore or junior year. So I was very fortunate to get that early experience, just exploring different event technologies, Cvent included. So I've been Cvent certified now for about 6 years. And I thankfully, because of that early experience with event technology, I really transitioned very well into my current role at Estee Lauder Companies, where I currently lead the global meetings management program there. And really, there was just such a gap to be filled within my role, in especially managing different brands, regions, and functions across the organization. There was a need to really centralize this role where I it was the first time that I heard this role of like being defined as an event technologist. And that really excites me because that is really exactly what I do day to day. I'm in different technologies every day. And, I do consider myself a subject matter expert, but I'm learning about new technologies every single day. And then even within Cvent, I'm learning new things every single day. So I think it's a really interesting role. And yeah, very excited to continue to talk about that today.
Awesome. Thank you, Erica. And definitely really interesting to see your career path and how it even started in college and taking some of the Cvent certifications in your college courses. All right, final presenter today, going to bring in Bridget. Erica and Taylor will see you back here in just a minute. Bridget, you have a slightly different role, and here we go, Bridget's career path. Slides are skipping too far ahead on me. You have a slightly different role, but still very involved with event technology, and event technology has been the heart of your career. Can you tell us all a little bit about what you do?
Certainly, I'd love to. Hi, I'm Bridget Wagner. I'm a principal consultant with Intent Strategy Group. We're the consulting arm of meetings and incentives worldwide. And we specialize in strategic meetings management solutions and project management. So in my consulting work, I'm able to kind of peek behind the curtain of various different clients' event tech stacks and gain an understanding of Cvent's role in that ecosystem. In past roles, I have been a Cvent system administrator. I've been a corporate meeting planner, data analyst. And then before that, I actually started my career at Cvent and piloted the strategic meetings management division within client services. So I guess to the question, am I an event technologist? I would say so. I've worked with event technologies my entire career and am well versed in several platforms. But being an event technologist doesn't necessarily mean that you're the absolute expert in every single technology in the marketplace, but that you have an interest in keeping in the know and an appetite to dive in and really learn the technology when needed. And then also to be able to take back that information to your organization and have an understanding and maybe a vision of how that technology can be incorporated into your events or into your event strategy.
I love that. And so we have 3 event technologists with us today, all who've had very different career journeys so far, but all with CVent and event technology systems at the heart of that career. Looks like for everybody, for our panelists and for ourselves as we have this discussion today, to look at the results from everybody joining us today, about 17% say, of course, I am a diehard event technologist. So we got a lot of your fellow event technologists. 40% out there asking to be enlightened. So I hope you guys find this educational today. And 42% saying that I think so. So lots of people with a lot of interest in this topic. So hopefully you enjoy our conversation today. Great to understand the perspectives you are all bringing as we dive into this conversation. So with that, we are going to go ahead and walk through some of the research that we saw. And the first place I want to start is the impact of COVID on event technology. So this research that we conducted with Hanover was actually some research that CVent did right at the end of 2019, going into 2020, as we saw technology rising within events. And then, of course, the pandemic happened, events went online, virtual explosion. You literally could not host an event without technology. And now, of course, as we've gone back to in person, got virtual, in person, hybrid, and technology is just still everywhere within events. And so when we asked our survey respondents, what were the top impacts of COVID on event technology? The top 3 responses that we saw were the impact of technology is at events is even greater. Event technologists are now playing a larger role in virtual events, as well as event technologists are playing a larger role in event planning in general. So Taylor, I'm going to start with you. What do you think of this? How did COVID and the last 3 years impact your role as an event technologist?
Yeah, sure. I will definitely. I want to kind of point out that point number 3 really speaks to me. There was definitely an increase in our involvement or partnership really with our event designers, what we kind of title our event planners, so to speak. We were forced to really sit down and collaborate with them on how are we going to make this work. I remember, gosh, right when the pandemic really took a toll, we were in the midst of planning CVent Connect, our flagship user conference, and we had to literally pump the brakes on everything and just get in a room. It was myself, our lead event planner, and then our lead event marketer. So it was the 3 of us. We were kind of the trifecta, the 3 musketeers. We had to sit down and just reinvent what does it even look like in a pandemic. Not to mention, we were also piloting the attendee hub for the first time. So we were really, it was a once in a career type of moment, but it forced us to sit down and get aligned on where do our roles fit in this new space. Where does the event technologist fit now that the venue is technology? Now that your entire event has to incorporate technology, and it is technology. So in the moment, it was absolutely stressful, and it was a little questionable at times of like, what's my role here? What are we doing? But I think looking back, it was really beneficial. It's made our teams work very tight together. It's also made us clearly draw the lines in the sand on what is and what isn't part of each person's role. And I'm sure a bunch of you out there can understand that same sense. Our teams actually filtered out into those 3 pillars. So we have our event technology and operations function, which I sit on. We have our event design team, which is really the event planner role. And then we have our event marketing function. Without the pandemic, I don't know that we would have those roles as clearly defined as we do today. So for better or for worse, it was definitely it was definitely a big change we had to make.
I love that. And Bridget, you have a little bit of a broader scope across multiple clients. What are you seeing in general, especially going into as we start 2023 with the role of the event technologist and how it's evolved in the last 2-3 years?
Sure. So I do see a lot of clients starting to define, just as Taylor was saying, trying to define what an event technologist is within their organization. The event technologist also in the last year or so, we've seen clients who maybe over diversified their technology stack during COVID because, the industry was just flooded with so many different choices and technologies were being built and features released really quickly. So a lot of clients have over diversified and now they're trying to kind of untangle all those different solutions to scale back and concentrate on what suits their events best, what suits their goals and their initiatives. And again, with Cvent kind of being the central to that tech stack. And event technologists and their experience and opinions weigh very heavily into an event technology strategy and deciding what technologies to continue with across an organization.
Love that. All right. Well, Erica, just to keep us moving, I'll come to you with the next question. We're going to pivot now a little bit into an organizational view of the event technologist. And every organization has a little bit of a different job description role of the event technologist. I saw a question already coming in about how to find event technologist jobs, which we will address at the end, I promise. But wanted to kind of showcase where are we seeing event technologists sitting in organizations. Based on the survey results, we saw 63% sitting in event planning departments. And I think both Erica and Taylor, those are the departments they sit in today. But more and more seeing information technology, operations, marketing departments, which I know, for us at Cvent, event planning actually sits in within marketing. So Taylor probably could have taken both of those answers, but very, still focused on that events, but really interesting to see some of those other departments come out. And then right now, based on the survey results, we saw that only 25% of organizations, based on our survey results, have a truly dedicated event technologist. So the role that Taylor and Erica play is a little bit more unique, probably to some more sophisticated meeting and event planning teams that have really defined those roles, or I'm sure the teams that Bridget's team supports, and having that dedicated external event technologist. So then we did actually, we have here today internal and external event technology representation. So we asked our survey, what are some of the benefits of having somebody like a Taylor or Erica on your team, and having that event technologist role sit internally. The top 5 reasons that organizations said that they bring that role internally is the data privacy, brand consistency, operational efficiency, keeping up with industry changes, and alignment to company specific needs. So really having people who live and breathe your internal organization to put that back into your event technology. On the other side, there are tons of benefits from working with somebody like Bridget and her team and an external event technologist with that specific technical expertise, or maybe an access to a wider network of vendors or an understanding of a wider network of some of the different technology options and potentially even access to more resources. So those are just some of the current landscape of the event technologist and organizational role. Erica, I'd love your thoughts, especially as it relates to being an internal event technologist on, are these some of the reasons and benefits that your team has for having your role on the team?
Yeah, Julie, absolutely. A lot of these resonate with me personally. And I really think sitting in a parent organization such as Estee Lauder, it's so important to have not only brand consistency, but also looking at data privacy, right? Because even coming out of the pandemic, I feel like the travel and meetings category got a lot of we really got picked up by senior management, and there were eyes on us because everyone really wants to know who's traveling at what time, and that's so important for senior management to have eyes on that. So really, there is such a need for a role such as an event technologist to really centralize that process and make sure that your meetings and events process is consistent across the board, making sure that you can report out to the right people. Data privacy really hits home as well, because under a parent organization, you have so many different brands, regions, and functions that you have in your database. And so keeping confidentiality between those brands and functions is really at the utmost importance as well. Brand consistency again across the board, really important. So a lot of those definitely resonate.
Excellent. And then Bridget, you're representing our external event technologists. Do you see these as the top 3 benefits, or what else would you add to the benefits of hiring an external event technologist?
Sure. So I do really agree with these. External event technologists have already done a lot of the research and have that hands-on experience that you want. They've done the hard work and have figured out what works and what doesn't. So because, third-party technologists generally work across multiple clients, a solution that works for one client, that a challenge that client is facing, might also work across multiple clients. We do hear a lot, a favorite question is, how are other organizations doing this? So it helps us to be able to learn from others and how they've overcome issues and being able to apply that across multiple clients. And you also get the benefit of having kind of that brain trust of an entire team of event technologists sharing information with each other, rather than a singular person going at it alone.
I love that. So we've talked a lot about kind of background, but what is it that event technologists do day in and day out? So some of the kind of big takeaways that I had from our survey is that 80% of event technologists are working on more than one event at a given time, and 63% are planning 5 to 20 events in the past 12 months. So you guys constantly working on a whole lot of events, but doing what? Top 10 responses we got in our survey were AV tech support, event registration, data analytics, social media, event website management, data privacy, technology for presentations at events, event customization, making events more interactive, and mobile app management. Taylor, I'd love to know, do these top 10 resonate for you, or is there something else you would add to this list?
Yes, these 10 definitely resonate amongst a list of probably 20 others that I'm sure everyone can agree with me on. We also sit on webinars. No, but I think that this list is definitely, encompassing of the top priorities. But I also will say that these shift depending on what's more important, what's trending. Obviously, there are some key things depending on what's trending in the industry, but also what's trending and what's important for your industry and for your organization. So some things that might come up on the list are sustainability, equity and inclusion, those sort of things. I know those are some top trends right now. So a lot of times what happens is once this event technologist role kind of gets discovered and the importance of the role explodes, so to speak, people will come to you for everything. You will be brought into each of these different conversations as an expert. You'll be asked, how can technology lead us to these different goals? So your job definitely ebbs and flows, but once the word gets out, you will definitely be a hot commodity. Your job will continue to grow, and I think the limits are honestly, like, we haven't found them yet. It's going to continue to evolve, especially as the world changes and as technology changes. So there's definitely never a dull moment.
I love that, not being just the execution arm, but also the strategist of how do I actually make my event better with technology.
Absolutely.
And I just love this quote from one of our survey respondents, that my role within the organization is that I lead our event strategy and design group. This involves everything from creating basically a strategic plan for the events and all the work that goes into that process, as well as evaluating and recommending experiences. That's everything from venues to technology to apps to formats. So really that strategic vision of what events can be, not just every single event, but an event program designed to really maximize all the events that your organization is doing. So one of the other questions that we asked was, what are the most important skills for an event technologist to have? The top 6 that really jumped out were attention to detail, project management, how to run AV equipment, coding and HTML abilities, communication, and leadership abilities. And I'm seeing questions in the chat about how to keep your skills up to date. So these are maybe some of those skills that you want to make sure you hone in on. Erica, what do you think about these skills? Are these the top skills that you work on daily?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think at the core of it, the willingness to learn, right? The willingness to, see the bigger picture and to want to grow your program in the best and most efficient way possible. And that's the way, I know every organization is going to be very nuanced in what they focused on in an event technologist role. And same with my counterparts, we are all focusing on very different parts of different roles. But I think, yes, project management. So I am a PMP myself, a project management professional, and getting that accreditation actually has helped me massively in the event technologist role, because that is such a key part to any event technologist. Attention to detail is so important. Leadership opportunities, taking opportunities at any point, and really also I think in a role in a large organization, listening to your planners, listening to the people that are on site, and listening to what their needs are, what their challenges are, and seeing how you can support them in the best way. On a previous slide, right, one of those examples was event registration and event design. A lot of that is taking place within this event tool or an event technology tool. So making sure that you have those skill sets to not only adapt, but to take on those leadership roles and really collaborate with your event team.
Love that. So you mentioned both being a problem solver and addressing challenges, but you guys face your own challenges. So survey says the top challenges faced by an event technologist are the lack of decision-making authority, insufficient resources within the organization, lack of integration with existing company technology, lacking necessary skills, poorly defined job description, and inefficient processes. Bridget, your team spans a whole bunch of organizations. Are these, pretty consistent that you hear from your team on a regular basis?
Sure, I do think the lack of decision-making authority is definitely the number one that we see. It's more that technologists, especially when first starting out on a project or even the day of a project, they need to be able to be empowered to make decisions and act upon them with the support of their event planning team, with the support of their executives as well. So I do think that as a role of event technologist comes to your company, perhaps defining it and coming up with what you want your event technologist to have the experience with and what their role is. As you define that, it makes it a little bit more empowered, self-empowered to make those decisions and follow through with those decisions.
Excellent. All right. Well, we're going to roll through hopefully about 10, 12 more minutes of content. I see a bunch of questions coming in for a Q&A, so be prepared for some hot seat questions, panelists. And do make sure you navigate over to that Q&A tab if you haven't already. We're definitely going to save hopefully about 10, 15 minutes for Q&A. Last section for our discussion, though, is the success and the future of the event technologist. And when we talk about measurements of event technology success, the top 8 results that we saw in the survey was measuring success based on feedback from clients, attendee satisfaction in the post-event survey, social media engagement, virtual event attendance, total event attendance, time spent with clients, new business from attendees, and attendee use of technology at events. I actually would love to hear from all 3 of you on this one, but I'm going to say limit it to 1 minute each of what else would you add to this list, or which of these is your top measurement of success? Taylor, we'll start with you.
Yeah, one thing I think, and it's hard to put on this list because it is going to be based off of your organization and your industry, is helping to achieve the event goals. So you kind of have to add that to your own event tech success. Why are you doing what you're doing? You're doing your event tech role to achieve the goals of the overall event. Why is the event happening? To achieve the overall goals of the organization or of the association, you name it. So one thing you really have to add onto this list is kind of a question mark or a fill in the blank with your event goals. So for us, a really big goal of our event programs is going to be to showcase our products, our technology. So we're going to add that on here as a goal. Obviously, that's not going to be the same for other organizations, whether that's maybe grabbing more quality leads, gaining new members, that sort of thing, training new users, whatever your goals are, you're going to add that on here as a success metric because your event technology usage should ultimately lend itself to those goals. So kind of fill in the blank with your event or your industry goals. I would like to add that one on here.
Excellent. All right, Erica, what would you add?
Yeah, I would love to piggyback off of Taylor. I do think I agree that all of the KPIs are going to look very, very different across different organizations, whether your event technologist is sitting internally or externally. But one specific KPI that we like to look at is really the rate of adoption. So, for example, something that we've utilized Cvent for in the past is building out a global meetings and events portal. And for our organization, this is really acting as the one-stop shop for all planners, anyone stepping into that planner role to access all information, whether it's trainings, information on sustainability, and we've been able to add some really unique and cool resources over the years. But the way that we measure success for the portal, for example, is really the rate of adoption and engagement. So who is logging into our solution and at what time? Are they asking questions? Are we receiving escalations? So on the flip side of that, our qualitative data and the feedback that we receive from planners, and really, again, anyone stepping into the planner role within our organization, making sure that we are addressing escalations and mitigating them as much as possible. So I would say here I would add, rate of adoption, engagement, and any qualitative feedback from planners.
Awesome. And Bridget, what about you? What do you guys use to measure success?
Sure. So I do think it's also not just feedback from clients or from registrants, but the feedback from the account users. So user adoption, just like Erica had mentioned, is really key in making sure that the product itself continues to be successful for you and for your organization. We do see also areas that support adoption, whether it's around some change management or communications that need to go out to specific groups, offering trainings around those, just making sure that you're setting up your users for success as they go out, because they're probably working with event stakeholders throughout the entire company, making sure that the overall feeling about the technology is positive.
Excellent. All right, and we're getting some great questions in the chat. So get ready for those questions that are coming in Q&A. So as we think about just closing out the slide for portion of today's conversation, as we look into the future, our survey showed that 80% of organizations believe that the event technologist role will only increase in importance over the next 5 years. So group team, you're in a great spot. The future is bright for event technologists. Just a couple quotes again from our survey that we ran that really highlight that evolving and expanding role of the event technologists. More jobs, more organizations coming and looking for event technologists, and everything is going digital. So the faster you really incorporate technology into all things your events, the better off your organization is going to be. So everybody here today in a great position. We're going to close this section out with a final poll and some closing thoughts from our presenters. So while our presenters give us our closing thoughts, if you guys, all of our attendees, navigate over to that polls tab again. So now, having heard our conversation, do you consider yourself an event technologist? And as we kind of close out with that final thought before we jump to questions, want to leave the panelists with what's your vision for the future of your role or event technologists in general? And I'm going to throw around the order and start with Bridget this time.
Sure. So for the future of the role of event technologist, technology itself is becoming more and more complex. I would like to see in the industry more event technologists getting a seat at the table of your organization as they're discussing event strategy, and also defining what, again, an event technologist is for your company, how that really aligns with the existing infrastructure, and setting up your planners for success by providing the technology and the advocacy that they need.
Excellent. All right. Erica, what do you see in the future?
Yeah, I think it's so important, especially in my role, to continue to go to, educational conferences, attend webinars such as this, and to really knowledge share across the industry. It's so important to define this role, and this is something that I've found within my organization where, I wasn't able to actually call it an event technologist at the time, and I'm happy that I can actually, better define what that term actually is, and to confidently say that I am one myself. But I think for our program going into 23 and 24, it is going to be really important to consistently vet through a lot of different technologies and find the best way to integrate the top ones into a specific program. So that has been a really, really huge part of my role is, vetting through technologies, because honestly, it's becoming very, very saturated at this point, and making sure that you are selecting the right technologies for your specific program, I think is so important. And really, again, knowledge sharing in the industry and growing and learning together, so important.
Awesome. All right. And Taylor, last thought from you on the future.
I love it. First of all, everyone in the poll better say that they absolutely think that they're an event technologist now. No, but I think the future is definitely bright. I think the future is honestly unknown in the best way possible. If you could have asked me even 3 years ago if I would be where I am today, I would have been like, "You're crazy." I think we can all say that about the pandemic and everything. But that being said, I think we don't know where things are going to go. So be ahead of that curve. Be the one that's sort of bringing the ideas to the table. Be the one that's questioning the status quo at your organization. If they are receptive to those changes, you're going to be at the head of that. You're going to be the one that's the innovator, the entrepreneur, so to speak. But keep asking questions and keep sort of being the pioneer of that stuff. For myself personally, a big shift for me going into this year is working with our product teams very heavily to get that upward feedback directly into their hands. I consider myself sort of customer zero at Cvent. We are our own in-house event planning machine, and I am the in-house event technologist. So providing them with that direct user feedback, UX feedback, you name it, is a really big focus for our team. We've also our team has gone from 2 to 5. So we have a really good army in place that's able to execute. We're a machine at this point. We're executing all of our 1,000+ events. We have a system admin in place. We have our operations manager who I report directly to, and then myself overseeing the product showcase and that sort of strategy. So things are definitely exciting. And I think for all of you that are listening in, there is only room to grow at this point. So just be ahead of that. Be the one that's sort of taking charge there. It's a very exciting time. I know you can all kind of hear it in our voices. We are just all so passionate about it. And we need more women in technology too.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's reveal those poll results now with all of our fabulous conversation. Looks like over 50% now absolutely consider themselves an event technologist. So we upped that from 17% to 52%. So I'm glad many of you found, similar to Erica when she and I started having this conversation, a label or a term or how to better define yourself and what you do. Another 15%, you guys have somebody on your team. Great. So glad to see that, that takes us up to 68, 70%. of you are either an event technologist or have one on your team. Another 30% of you thinking, I think so, I think I'm there. So hopefully, inspired you to go look into more event technology, maybe, take some more courses around event tech. I know there's a question in the chat about that, so we'll cover that here in a second. And 3% of you, honesty, love it. Still waiting for that New Kids on the Block music. I think my event producer, Greg, told me that Legal Nick's actually playing the right stuff. We did not get the rights to the song, but I'll go put it on your Apple iTunes music for you. Here
We'll sing it.
We'll sing it. Oh, no, you don't want me to sing it. But maybe at the outro. All right. So we have about 7 questions in the chat that have come in. Please do keep adding them. I'm going to try to get us to as many as we can. A quick one just to kick us off. What technology are we running on the behind production for this event right now? Thank you, Rick, for your question. Taylor can give you the full detailed answer on this. As she said many times, Cvent is a consumer of its own technology. So
Absolutely.
This is Cvent's technology, specifically called the Cvent Attendee Hub. And we're also using Cvent Studio, which is where our speakers are all in today. Taylor, anything you want to add to that?
Gosh, we're using it all. We're using Attendee Hub. We're using that post-event feedback survey. You guys got emails directly from Cvent. So yeah, we're using it all, as this is a small kind of fish in our big pond of events. But we use it all down to the core. Obviously, we have the tools at our luxury, so to speak, but you can see just how expansive your tech stack can get for something so simple to roll out as a webinar. So and it is really easy to use once you guys kind of get the hang of it, and it takes your production to the next level.
All right, next question. I love this one. This one came in early. If we want to join a company as an event technologist, what kind of jobs should we be looking for? I don't see much of this on LinkedIn. So Bridget, you're probably out there hiring. Erica, you found this role out there. Taylor, I know you've hired. What are some of the things people should be looking for in jobs on LinkedIn? Anyone want to jump in with that?
I can jump in. Yeah, I think it's definitely something that can be hidden in a lot of roles. And I was lucky enough at Estee Lauder. I actually ended up meeting who is now my director and ED at a conference. So I think if you're looking for a role within the travel and meeting space, that's a great place to start. Any networking opportunities, industry conferences is a great way to talk about any kind of role or job opportunity in a very specific way where you kind of get down to the nitty gritty of a role. But if you are looking at LinkedIn, I would say, focus on the bigger picture first. I would say within meetings and travel, or you can look at a technology company such as Cvent, where, they're running a technology and you can be on that side of it as well. Again, my experience is only really with attending conferences and networking that way. And that's, in my opinion, where you get kind of more of like the little inside scoop onto what a role actually is. But on LinkedIn, I would say probably more of like at the interview stage is when you're really going to know if that event technologist side of it is within the role.
I would agree with that. I think one other thing that you can look out for is do some research on the organization where you're applying. If you're, like Erica said, if you're looking to specifically be in the meetings and events industry, look at those organizations. Take a look at their websites and look at their events. Maybe attend their events personally, and then if they have a job opening, you could kind of come to bat with some thoughts. Maybe not some aggressive recommendations, but you could come to that interview with some really great questions. Hey, do you guys actually have someone that's managing your technology right now? Kind of do what I did, make that recommendation. A lot of companies don't necessarily know that it's an opportunity to have a dedicated role. But the other thing is make it into your role. So maybe you are really good and you like the event planning cycle. Maybe you start in as an event professional, sort of that generic term, and then maybe you tailor your expertise to lend itself to the technology side. You can kind of go anywhere with it, but don't box yourself into, searching event technologists on LinkedIn is honestly kind of dismal. It's definitely growing, but you'll start to see that the roles themselves are taken at this point because people are doing them. But here's the interesting part is that we don't know what we don't know. So you have to kind of come to the table with those recommendations, and you'll be even more empowered for doing that.
I love that, Taylor. As we've mentioned quite a few times, just the defining what an event technologist is. I think people or companies aren't necessarily defining it before they have someone in that role. So sometimes it might be hard to find that as a title on LinkedIn, but maybe looking for event strategy, looking to see where maybe also some system administration might be a place to look as well. Of course, always event planning as an industry to look at when you are kind of searching on LinkedIn.
All right, follow up to that, because the question was specifically asked, is Cvent in need of more event technologists? But are any of you in need of more event technologists?
I'll just speak to something really quickly. So I think within large organizations, something that I personally struggle with managing the global SMMP, we need event technologists in other functions and other regions of the organization. So even when I am partnering with other planners or EAs and they're sitting in a different affiliate from me, it's something where, I sit in the event technologist role, but I only have so much bandwidth in terms of the pre-planning that I can support with every meeting. So I do think that there is a need for multiple event technologists within any organization, depending on how large, how large the company is or whatever the scope of the program is. So I say, absolutely, event technologists, there should be many within an org.
And I can add specifically on the Cvent side, yes, we obviously have our meetings and events team that we are kind of our in-house servicing Cvent, so to speak. Our team is fully baked right now, but we have a really incredible, actually, we have a lot of teams in client services and our Cvent consulting team, which sits in under sales. But specifically on the client services side, we have a lot of kind of sub teams that actually service our clients and provide that, whether it's a system admin role, or actually they do have what used to be called our event quarterback team. It's our integrated events team, and they project manage from start to finish the event process, and it all is tech related. So feel free if anyone wants to message me on LinkedIn or any. I'm happy to send over some job titles that we're actively looking for. We're always looking. So, and I think that would be an interesting one because you'd be in at Cvent, but you'd be servicing clients. So you kind of get a taste of both Bridget's side and Erica's. You get the in and the out, so to speak.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, going to shift gears a little bit, and there are so many good questions, so I'm going to try to keep us moving. What are your recommendations for how to best balance your role amongst the other individuals working on the event? As an event technologist, I find myself challenged as to how involved to be in some of the nitty-gritty details of the event.
Oh, Rachel, I love this question. I think this is probably the biggest challenge, and Erica, I'm sure you can agree with this. I think it's definitely one of those things where you have to create your brand, so to speak. You have to push your way in, make sure that you are being invited to these meetings, make sure that you're speaking and having a voice in these conversations. I know a lot of times that during these planning meetings that it gets very into the weeds on really logistics, event planning stuff, but add in your opinion and try to bring it full circle back and relate it to tech, because what will happen slowly over time is you'll start getting pulled into meetings by default. People will say, hey, let's make sure Taylor's on the call, make sure Erica or Bridget are on the call. We need their insight. So on the one hand, it's kind of be careful what you wish for, because you do know so much, and I think sometimes we doubt ourselves of we're only looking at it from the technology lens, but don't be afraid to chime in. Be confident in kind of providing that opinion, and it will definitely come to you.
Yeah, Taylor, I would just piggyback off of that and say I think it's so important to clearly define your roles within any meeting or event from the get-go. And that's something that, our team has got a little caught up in the past where, we don't clearly define something. And then to what Taylor said, we could be caught up in some logistics that maybe they're not normally in our roles. So it's just, that's probably the biggest key advice that I have to give is clearly defining roles in the very beginning of the pre-planning is so important. So for example, if I say that I'm building out a reg site, great, but I'm not going to manage the reg site. So making sure you understand when that trade-off is going to happen, making sure that the communication is seamless and efficient across the board. So important. And I'm sure, Bridget, on the agency side, it's really the same way where you have to clearly define.
Certainly is.
All right, we've got on exactly what you just said, a great follow-up question. So which are the categories of event technology that you would say should be the responsibilities and scope of the event technologist?
Oh,
I can take this
go ahead,
one.
Bridget.
Yeah.
Okay, I do think, there are so many different event technologies out there. I think first and foremost, it is the event platform that's being used. Basically, your receive and account should be one of the main responsibilities. The secondary technologies for the day of the on-site experience, or the maybe it's a virtual experience, maybe it's on arrival, maybe it's any sort of communication technology that you're working with. I think those could all fall under an event technologist. Where I think you might be going a little bit outside of the scope of the event technologist might be like a business intelligence tool, where maybe you're pushing data into it and maybe you're working in partnership with that data analyst, but the event technologist might not be, have that as their main responsibility or within their scope.
All right, 5 minutes, 4 questions. We're going to see if we can get through them all. Also, continuing down this thread, and Taylor, I know you're involved a lot on this one. So I'd love, does the event technologist help evaluate how their client or organization would produce a hybrid event? And I know we're in the midst of this with Student Connect planning cycle.
Yes, Joe, absolutely. I think the event technologist needs to have a seat at the table in terms of when that event is even being ideated. Here's why. You need to understand like what is in scope for the hybrid portion for the virtual portion, and what's in scope for the in-person. You also need to understand what are the goals of the event. A lot of times what happens with these hybrid events is that it really ends up becoming 2 events that are being run at the same time, and it's too much, frankly, for the team to handle. So what happens is we have to push our event organizers and a lot of times our executives to really say, hey guys, what are the goals of this event? And whenever we're deciding what's in scope or out of scope, they all need to align with those goals. If something doesn't truly align with that goal and it ends up being a huge lift on the team and a huge strain on resources, let's put our effort and time into the things that do actually but where the juice is worth the squeeze, so to speak. But absolutely, technology needs to be part of that conversation, because I personally have been in many conversations where people kind of get a little outlandish with the ideas. Hybrid is the wild west as far as I'm concerned, and people get very excited about it. There's a lot of opportunity. That's an amazing thing. But I think what we have to do is bring people back into sort of a reality of, hey, here's what's going to make sense, here's what's going to work really well, and here's where you're going to get the most ROI. So yeah, absolutely. Event technology plays a role in that.
All right. Next one. During the RFP process for new event technologies, what is a must-ask question? Bridget, I'm betting you have a view on this one.
A few. Aside from price, I would also think that during the RFP process, you want to find out how well this technology can play with your other technologies within your tech stack. So are there integrations? Are there ways for the data to, or how does the data come out of the system? I also think this might be hard in the RFP itself, but at least in the demoing of products, getting an understanding of how easy is it to use for your attendees, as well as for the people who are running the technology the day of. Those are super key when deciding what technologies to use.
Erica, Taylor, any other must-ask questions when looking at new event tech?
I think for our program, it's asking yourself internally, okay, how is this going to fit into the program? And it depends. It's again very nuanced, depending on your event technologist role, so to speak. But I think the big overarching question that I'm always asking myself throughout any RFP process is, how is this strategically going to fit within the entire end-to-end planner process? And is it going to provide the most benefits?
Excellent. So it's really interesting that you both went to nothing specific about a singular event technology, but more the how it plays in the larger world. All right, 1 minute. Last question. We have two, but they kind of go together. So I'm going to double ask. What are the best resources for event technologists to stay up to date on the latest trends and most up to date practices and tools for the job? We're going to run 2 minutes over so all three panelists can answer. And on that, are there any recommendations for specific skills in AV equipment or coding in addition to this more general resources for staying up to date on the job? Start with Taylor. I'm going to go down my screen. Taylor, Bridget, Erica, and then I'll wrap us up about 2 minutes after the hour.
Perfect. I'll obviously give the CVent side of the house. We have an incredible marketing team here putting on this webinar there's so many resources, but webinars are a great way. There are case studies, there are videos, there's so much in our community that gives tips and tricks on how to use our solutions. But in terms of like the industry overall, I would say keep doing things like this, keep attending webinars. One thing I personally do is I try to attend some industry conferences, whether that's virtual or in person, just to see kind of what's everyone doing, what are the pain points of attendees, like what are people talking about, get out there in the world. That'd be my two cents.
Awesome. All right, Bridget.
To kind of piggyback off of some of what Taylor said, specifically with CVent, I think the CVent certification programs and the CVent community are a great place to start. That's where you're going to find out most information about how to use CVent specifically. I do also think the knowledge share within the community and hearing from other event technologists or other people using the platform is super key. I would say internally, you might create a resource for yourself that is kind of almost a scorecard or a playbook of what are you going to measure different technologies against, and where do specific technologies fall across that. It is something that you do have to keep up with, though, and kind of keep in the know of what's coming out shortly within the different technologies. That's actually a good point. I would also recommend that you try to get an understanding of the technology roadmaps for the platforms that you're using.
All right, Erica.
So, Bridget, I think we're going to say a few of the same things, but I think industry organizations and getting involved and networking in the industry is so important. Shameless plug, I am a part of PCMA, and I have gained so much of it, just a really unique perspective from so many of the members of PCMA that I network and I talk to, every week mostly. And and also what Taylor said, industry conferences, also really, really great to knowledge share and network at conferences as well. And then thirdly, something that has helped me is, specifically with CVent or any event technology, is certifications that are specific to those technologies. So I do tend to stay, active with Cvent certifications. They have a bunch of really, really great ones. If you're looking to step into the event technologist role for your organization and they're utilizing Cvent, those are incredible resources to really help you stay up to date with any technological advances and just to really, really sharpen your skill set.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for all of those great insights. And Taylor dropped it in the chat, but I can't leave a webinar without saying Cvent Connect, July 27th, 24th through 27th in Las Vegas is going to be your number one place to get all the insights on event technology, roadmaps, training, best practices, all of it one place. It's going to be great. Hope any of you can be there with us. I think we'll all be there, hopefully. So really looking forward to getting everybody together in person. Thank you, everybody, for staying a couple minutes past the top of the hour. Of course, thank you so much, Taylor, Bridget, Erica, for joining me in this conversation. So much fun to talk about event technology and what we do every day and sharing our passion for event technology with the industry. Before you all leave today, please do hit that last button, bottom one down. You all found the polls, so I know you can find the survey button too. Take that survey, give us your feedback. The fingers pointing at it right there on your screen. Would love your feedback. It really helps us improve these webinars for the future. Leave us topics you want to hear us talk about. One of our passions, like Taylor said, at Cvent is education of the industry. So let us know what we can teach you about more, and hope to see you back on another webinar. Think we have some of those upcoming webinars, bunch of them coming up in just the next couple of weeks. So if you like what you hear from Cvent, would love to see you on some of these webinars as well, talking about getting buy-in with budgets and your executives. Also be talking about building a more connected event strategy. Middle of March, going to dive in directly about trade shows. So if any of you manage your trade show programs, March 21st is another one of my webinars. So if you like my moderating of webinars, come join me for the balancing act on how to create impactful events to keep your budget happy. And on March 29th, I'll be closing out the month of March with my insider insights and geeking out with the Cvent data nerds and sharing some of the trends we're seeing based on our event technology and all of our customers' data. What are the trends we're seeing in the industry? So those are just the next month of webinars that we have on the Cvent webinar docket to continue your education in the industry. And Amy dropped those into the chat for you as well. So before you close out Attendee Hub, go register for any and all of those. I thank you again and look forward to seeing you on the next webinar. And thank you again, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
You're gonna make it. They build a wall so